One thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to start off by discussing a book every month. We basically chose this because it's the most copies we have to give away. It's not to diminish the book, it's a great book, and there's a lot of great things can be wringed from it. It is called the Fred Factor.
If you look at page 3 in your little BIZ breakfast guides that we provided, you will see a slight overview of the Fred Factor. Let me tell you about this book just for a moment. Fred Factor is one of those books that you read and you smile the entire time you read it. Mark Sanborn has this great ability to tell stories. And the whole point of the Fred Factor is Mark had a postal carrier who went above and beyond every single day. I mean, all the way from checking his house to when he was on vacation and making sure everything was all right. Fred was really this great customer service driven individual. And so in the story, Mark started looking for more Freds, more people who go above and beyond and told their stories to kind of give us all the ability to understand what it means to give great customer service and awesome, just have a great attitude to helping other people and giving them more than they expect. And so the Fred Factor, I actually didn't read it, I listened to it, and so that was a little bit of a difference maker for me. But one of the stories in it that really resonated with me, he talks about a waitress. And he was in a restaurant. And how many times have you gone to a restaurant and ordered a Coke or a Diet Coke, and they're like, "I'm sorry, sir, all we have is Pepsi"? Well, he went in there and ordered, I think it was a Diet Coke at the time, and the waitress never said, "No, we don't do that." The place only served Pepsi products, but he had asked for a Coke, and they never said, "No, sir, we can't help you." Turns out, at the end of the story, this waitress, there was a convenience store located pretty close to the restaurant, and this waitress went and spent out of her or his own pocket money to buy a bottled Diet Coke, put it in the glass, and made sure he had a full glass of Diet Coke for his entire experience. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about looking for Freds out there, looking for people who go above and beyond. And sometimes you don't even know that they went above and beyond until later on. And this is really something that I'm seeing is becoming more expected. If you will travel to the Dallas Metroplex, for instance, and go to any restaurant, any store, you're going to have a vastly different experience than you do in Shreveport-Bossier. You just are, because they are so geared to customer service over there that it really, you see a difference. We who live here we're almost numb to how things work other places, and we have come to expect lousy service. I mean, let's face facts. We've come to expect lousy service. And if we want to compete in a global economy, if we want to compete even in a regional economy, we are going to have to understand what it means to have great customer service and then begin implementing it in our businesses and in the cultures of where we work. And the Fred Factor, this book is old. I mean, it's old in the realm of customer service books, because Sanborn's already written another book called Fred 2.0. But this is a great starting place to start opening your mind to understanding what great customer service is, to understanding, oh, this is what it looks like. Until you know what it looks like, it's very hard to emulate. And when our environments right now, adequate customer service seems great to us, because customer service by and large locally is not great. So this will let you see and open your eyes and go, oh wow, it really can be this good. Can we empower our teams to give great customer service? Can we, if you've ever been in contact with Zappos or sometimes even Amazon, you know what great customer service feels like, and you're like, well, they're just a big company and that's what they do. No, every company can give great customer service, and this is an awesome book to help get you started.
And important to note in the Fred Factor, Fred, the guy in question, he goes the extra mile because he cares. It's his passion. And really, in order to have great customer service like we should have, you really have to have a passion for it. If you don't care, you're not going to notice the little things. You're not going to put forth the extra effort. It was like yesterday, we had a steering committee meeting for BIZ. And I went and I was taking the waters out, and I was putting them on little coasters beside everybody's place, and I was turning the labels to BIZ inward. And David saw it, and he said, "Oh, wow." And I said, "Yeah, it's the little things. And it's because I care, and it came with practice. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have cared that there were even waters there. That's not my job. But I care about the company. And if you care about your company or your brand or your own startup or small business, you will take that extra step, and people will notice."
There's a book out there, and my friend Jerry Frentress recommended it to me and has taught from it, called Raving Fans. Giving exceptional customer service creates raving fans. And when you think of a raving fan, that's somebody who's going out and just singing your praises to the masses, to everybody they come in contact with. And in today's world of social media, you see it. If you go through your Facebook timeline, there's always somebody either griping about bad experience, or in the very rare cases, really promoting a good experience. And if you think about it, the average Facebook person has somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 friends on Facebook. They're broadcasting their experiences to an audience of 400 to 500, and those 400 to 500 have another 400 to 500 of their own, and if they like it or comment on it, then it shows up. And so all of a sudden, you have this swelling or this buildup of experiences. And if you give exceptional customer service, you can see definite return benefit on it because of things like social media.
And another great story from that same thing I did yesterday was I ordered our lunches from Jason's Deli. I never ordered for them before, but they had a menu online. They had it where you can order online, give directions, the whole 9 yards, which I don't know about catering, so I don't order a lot of food online for delivery and whatnot. So I don't know if that's the norm, but it was incredibly easy. They asked for the delivery time. I said 10 to 11 because I automatically in my brain compensate for bad customer service. So I'm like, as long as it's there by 11, that's an hour before everybody gets there, it'll be fine. At 10:03, our receptionist says, "Sean, the delivery's here." They were there 3 minutes before the first hour they could deliver it. And the guy was super nice, helped me get it in. I took it in, put it in the fridge. And then later that afternoon, I get a phone call from Jason's Deli corporate asking how my experience was, and if there's anything they could do better or what I applauded them for, and I said it was perfect. And now they have, because of those couple little things, they have customer loyalty. Anytime we have to cater something, as long as it's not needs to be specific, it's going to be Jason's Deli because I know I'm going to get great service.
And they had a great product on top of it. Everybody loved it.
Oh yeah, you got to have a great product.
It was
a
awesome.
great sandwich. So
as we continue on, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping before Sean gets started on the program. If you will take your booklets here, you'll look on the front inside cover. You'll see all the ways to contact us. It has the address for the website, our Facebook page, my blog, the podcast, everything that we do you can find here. So no more to try to remember what the URL is after the breakfast. It'll be here. Also, contact us if you have any questions following the meeting. Either post them in the comments section of the BIZ Breakfast event, or feel free to email Sean, and we'll put our heads together and try to figure out the very best way to help you. On the inside back cover, this is a shameless self-promotion plug. The BIZ magazine goes out every month to the local area, and we always are being asked, well, what's it cost to advertise in BIZ mag? Here it is right here, all in one. Everything you need to know about the magazine is right here. We'd be more than happy to take care of you. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Sean.
Yeah, and I'm going to give some books away, and there's something else I wanted to point out. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, yeah, we got books. Who here is new?
1, 2, 3. There's 3 of them.
And then Jerry's pointing at someone.
4.
She's new? Okay.
There's 5 too.
No.
There's 5 right there.
Yeah. You each get a free book.
Oh, thank you.
Take it, read it, cherish it, share it.
Here go.
Yeah. This is the big ticket item today. It's setting and managing goals. One thing that we always try to do is we always try at BIZ to set some personal goals that we want to see and some goals we want to see for the organization around this time of year. And it seems like everybody else is planning this time of year. So if you'll open your books to page 4, this is where the presentation will start. Let's think about so far about the first 10 months of 2014. Think of how your year has gone. And then now think about how you want next year to go. Do you want it to be better or worse? I mean, I think everybody wants it to be better. I don't think anybody wants a worse year. But you can want, but how are you going to get there? And the easiest way to ensure that you get the year that you want in profitability, standards, achievements, is by setting a goal. So you can set a goal, but it can be arbitrary. You can't just set some pie in the sky dream. You have to figure out how to set a goal. The great thing about goals is that they give you something to shoot for. They give you something to strive for. And without having something to shoot for, you'll never get started on achieving your goal.
You know, every year there's these things that people break all the time called New Year's resolutions. A New Year's resolution is not a goal. A New Year's resolution is merely a dream that you'd like to accomplish. Until you bring some sort of specificity to that resolution or to that dream, it never will become a goal.
And so what I'm going to encourage you guys to do is to set one goal for yourself. It can be professional, it can be personal. I don't care. Just set something that you want to achieve in the next 12 to 14 months for yourself. And more importantly, if you have a team or you have a partner, a co-owner, somebody that you work closely with, get them to set one and get them to tell you what it is, so you have basically a buddy who you can hold accountable.
Last year we did this at the office. I sent out an email to every staff member and I asked them, set one goal and share it with me. Just one. And you really started seeing the personalities of folks come out. Sean had his goal back to me within like 3 minutes. He's a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. Yeah. And then I had one that came in like a couple of days later that was like a term paper. You know, they wanted to explain everything about it. And it really tells you as a leader what's going on in your organization based upon the goals that people want to set for themselves. And my job as the leader is to help them reach that, either by providing opportunities, bringing some accountability, etc. But unless I know where they're wanting to go and seeing if it lines up with where we want to go, we really have no idea if everybody's headed in the same direction. So just that one exercise provided a lot of clarity for the entire team.
And goals are important because they give you a place to start and an end, because the goal in itself is an end. And they give you a purpose and they show you how to act. You'll get started, you kick off with this intention of achieving this thing, and you have to act within those parameters in order to achieve it. There's really not a good way to go around Laura's house to get there and achieve your goal. You have to have discipline to achieve it. Now, let's talk about planning, because that's really important to know. If you don't plan how to achieve your goal, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You know, it's like David said, you have a New Year's resolution where you say, I want to lose weight. And you just, it's just there. It's just on your board. You know, you might even take it as far as find a little motivational quote and tack it on your mirror or something. You put it on your Facebook. I'm going to lose weight this year. That's great. How are you going to get there? I'm just going to lose weight. You know, I'll just kind of watch what I eat, and I might go run a few times a week, and I'll lose weight. And by week 2, you're eating ribs and pizza and going, it's raining and it's cold outside. I don't care. You know, there's always next year, and it's over. The dream is dead.
You know, and every year, things get in the way, right? You have an idea of what you want to accomplish, and other stuff happens. One of our goals had to do with BIZ, the magazine, and what we were going to do with the magazine and how it was going to progress throughout the course of 2014. But then other opportunities began to present themselves. And so it's okay to shift the focus of your goal. Just don't let those opportunities become distractions to what your core idea is. You know, there was no such thing as a BIZ breakfast in January 2014. But we saw it as an opportunity to help us achieve the goal that we had set in 2014. Therefore, it was worth our while to get engaged with that.
Yeah, goals aren't rigid. Let me say that. A lot of goals can be fluid. We'll talk about how you know whether you achieved your goal or not. That's rigid. But the goal itself can be flexible. It's like Dave said, if an opportunity comes up or there's something that you need to do to achieve your goal that wasn't planned for, then you just have to assess it within that moment and say, will this distract me, or can it become part of my plan to achieve what I want to achieve?
A goal without a plan is just a dream. Think about who in here has a college degree? Just didn't happen, did it? You just didn't sign up and say, well, I want to be this. And 4 years later, you walk across the stage. Why? Because it takes work. It takes incremental steps to achieve a goal. Simply saying, I want a degree in is not a goal. I want a degree in and I am going to apply to the college. I'm going to take this many hours. I'm going to assign this much time in my free time to classwork. That is an actual goal.
I'm the type of person where I don't have very many goals, but when I have a goal, by God, either help me or get out of my way, because I'm going to make it happen. And that's really what happened with me. I had to suck it up and go to school because my advisor neglected to tell me that I had enough senior credit hours. Oh, well, you're short like 8 hours. Okay, so I guess I'm going to summer school, huh? Yeah, I guess so. Well, what are they? Well, you have Arkansas history, and you have business in the legal environment, which I'm a mass comm major. I don't need business in the legal environment, okay? I'm not going to be a lawyer. I had to take it. And not only did I take them, I graduated with A's. And I still got out in 4 years because I was going to graduate in 4 years. I had a job. I was getting married. It was happening. I had a goal, and I made sure that I achieved it. He's right. If you don't have a goal and you don't plan, because see, I didn't plan properly, I had to pull out a rabbit at the 11th hour to mix metaphors and to do it, but I still did it. And sometimes that's what you have to do. So, we've talked about planning a little bit, and now we're going to talk about really getting down to brass tacks. Your goals have to be specific, measurable, and time sensitive. When you're specific with your goals, if you're vague, it'll wear you out, because you're constantly striving to achieve this thing that doesn't have a real definition. You're not specific with it. It's amorphous. It just keeps changing and growing as you keep changing and growing. Exactly.
Here's an example of a specific goal and how you can aim things at it. I see a few dads in here. How many of you dads have taken the family on a vacation in the car? And how many of you reroute yourselves, drive over the speed limit, just so you can walk in the door and say, I beat last year by 3 minutes? And you look and you're like, you're always looking for the next major city. Why is that? Because the next major city is a milestone in your journey. It's like, okay, I've made it here by noon. If I can make it to Atlanta by 5 or before 5, I'll beat the 5 o'clock traffic, and then I can get to Charlotte by whenever. Why is that? Because you have a specific goal. You know that I want to be at this particular place within a certain number of hours, within a certain amount of time, so I can see the big rat at Disney World. And you're looking at the milestones all the way. And you know if you miss this one milestone, you're going to have to make it up on the next leg. Oh, we're not stopping to go to the bathroom, folks. We got to make it to such and such, right? Or we're going through a drive-through. We're not stopping to eat. We're going through a drive-through so that we can make our destination on time. That is what it looks like. You just have to now turn it to the things that you do in business or the things you do personally. Don't say I want to lose weight. Say I want to lose 20 pounds by a certain date, and then set milestones along the way. Anybody ever watched the TV show, I think it's called Extreme Weight Loss, and it's got the one guy that spends a year with this other individual. They weigh in every 3 months, and they know that to reach their goal, they have to lose a certain amount of weight. And when those contestants don't lose that amount of weight within that 3-month time period, they ramp things up for the next time period so that they can get back on track. That's what it means to set a goal that you can measure, that has a time-sensitive nature, and that are specific.
And if they're specific, then you have a greater chance of them becoming a reality. You know, like I said, vagueness is just this thing. It's just this dream. It's just there. If you make it specific, then you got something that you really can get an eagle eye for and narrow down. And when we talk about this, though, I want to note the goals have to be achievable. You can't go, I want to sell $20,000 this next month by myself. That's called biting off more than you can chew. And then you get discouraged, and then that's when you fail, and then that's when you abandon, and that's when you quit. Seth Godin refers to it as the dip. But the great thing about setting a goal that is achievable is that if you succeed, success breeds success. It spreads. It spreads to people that you interact with. It spreads to your team. It spreads to your coworkers. It spreads to co-leadership, because then somebody says, "Hey, how was your month?" And you say, "Man, I had a goal of like $5,000, and I did 6." And people are like, "Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Hey, I heard Sean down at da-da-da did," it just spreads.
When you set a goal, you have to set it based upon where you want to be, and then set the time frame based upon what is reasonable. It's okay to say, let's take holiday lanes for example. I want every lane packed every day. Now that's a goal, but at the same time, is that achievable within a month? No, you have to set the time frame based upon what seems to be a reasonable amount of time to expect to reach that goal. If you want to double your sales, or double your engagement, or double your fans on Facebook, or whatever it is, what are some of the ways? And you do your research and you understand, okay, this is a reasonable amount of time. Remember when we were talking about scaling? Scaling is seeing exponential growth in a short amount of time. But not everybody can grow in a scaling nature, especially when you have tangible things and you're a small place that is only selling locally. You've got to have that ability to recognize what can be done, what needs to be done, and how long do we have to get it done. Once you do those things, then you reverse engineer it back to where you are today. Can I lose 100 pounds in a year? Yes, but do I have time to lose 100 pounds in a year? You see these shows where people are losing this massive amounts of weight, but they're working out 8 hours a day. I'm lucky if I get 3 hours a week to work out.
And you also get injuries, which
and
is
injuries and all of those things. So you have to reverse engineer it and say, look, I want to lose 100 pounds, but let's do it over the next 3 years. Now we've brought it back down to something that I can handle, and then set my benchmarks along the way. Okay, if I need to lose 100 pounds in 3 years, that's 33 pounds a year. That's pound a month or 2 pounds a month or whatever. Just figuring out that area is great, because then now all of a sudden when you hit that scale or when you hit that measuring point, you know where you are upon the reachable goal of doing that.
Let's talk about measurability of goals. If your goal isn't measurable, how will you know what you achieved? We're sticking with the let's lose weight metaphor. If you don't know, if you're not weighing yourself every day, how do you know if you're going backwards or forwards? You don't. Well, my belt's getting looser. Well, maybe those are bigger pants, okay? So there's a lot of factors to be played. You can't be generic. Generic goals are boring. And when things are boring, you get lazy because you get apathetic.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to I want to lose weight versus I want to lose a specific number of pounds. I mean, when do you celebrate? Well, I want to lose weight. I lost a pound today. Woohoo! No. But when you lost 10 pounds over a period of time, it's a big deal. And let's look at it not just from the weight loss standpoint. I want my business to be, we want to increase by 25% in the next 12 months. Now all of a sudden you know when you can celebrate. When you don't know, when it's just out there, we just want to increase business next year. Whoop-dee-doo. Oh boy. But boy, when you have an actual figure, you can put it on a bulletin board, you can get with your team, you can have rallying meetings, you can just do all of these things. The Bossier Chamber of Commerce is right in the middle of a total resource campaign. And they have a very specific, just big, hairy goal to reach, right? Well, I was in a meeting yesterday and we were talking about this goal, and they're considerably short of it right now with 2 weeks to go. Considerably short. But the people in the room were like, we can do this, we can make it, and this is how we're going to do it. And next thing you knew, ideas were being thrown back and forth across the table, and we had like, well, let's go to this particular sponsor, let's go to this, and hey, we're going to connect this person on the TRC team with this person that still hasn't signed on the dotted line. We're going to get them together because I know this one has a relationship with that one. And all of a sudden, instead of being deflated in the room, remember, we're short of a goal. Instead of being deflated in the room, all of a sudden the excitement started to build again, and they're like, yeah, we're going to do this. You know things always happen in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, they sure do. Well, we're going to make it. And it was amazing, the turnaround. Why? Because they had a specific goal, it was measurable, and it wasn't boring.
And the best way to do that is just put a number beside your goal. If a number applies, which it should, if it's measurable. And that could mean time, that could mean an amount, but you need to put a number beside it so that you can track your progress. Again, if you say I want to lose 22 pounds, you have to weigh yourself to know how many pounds you're losing a week. So now let's talk about time-sensitive goals. Put a date beside your goal. Think of a date beside your goal as an expiration date. How many people say this? I'll do it tomorrow. I didn't get to it today, but I'll do it tomorrow.
I'll start my diet Monday.
Yeah.
The revel's going on. Come on, I can't start a diet in the middle of the revel.
Yeah.
I got to support the local community by eating massive quantities of bad things for me down at the Festival Plaza.
One of my favorite things, it's the double-edged sword, is whenever a goal isn't achieved or there's a setback, I'm like, well, the sun will rise tomorrow. And that's great, but it's also the fallback for, well, you know, I didn't get this booklet done, but I got time tomorrow. And tomorrow is always the mystical land where productivity lies, like the sign says. So when you have a date, which is really an expiration date, put it on your calendar. Like Dave Ramsey said, put it on your calendar, circle it in red. Or if you're an iPhone user, put it in your phone and make it bold, whatever. Because if you don't put it on your calendar, it's not a reality.
That's right. It doesn't exist.
And I've learned that the hard way. We've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, what did I tell y'all a few months ago? Those of you who've been through most of our Biz breakfasts, you know, we've been trying to get the BizTool site launched for months. And we said by hook or by crook it was going to happen the end of September. Or was it end of August? End of August. Oh, Lord, help us. And it didn't happen. And let me tell you, though, leading up to the 30th of August, we were sweating. We're like, we got to get this done. We got to get this done. And long story short, we were affected by some outside forces that we couldn't control. We were being hacked on a regular basis. And every time we thought we had it solved, I mean, within a 24-hour period, it was back. And it took us literally weeks to get it all figured out, to get it all cleaned out to where now it's safe. But the thing was, every day that we went past that day, Sean and I were like, you know, we got to get this I said, I'm working on it. And he's like, you need to work on it faster. And I'm like, I got to get Bruce in Minden because Bruce knows more about this than I do. And then I'm beating up Bruce's phone trying to get him because he's got other things that are not my priority, but I'm trying to make my priority his priority. And why was that? Because we had set a date. It was on the calendar. And so we had this sense of urgency. Did it matter to the general public whether or not the site launched on August 30th or not? No, but it meant something to us because we had put it on the calendar. And any goal you set that you put on the calendar will mean more to you than something that you say you're just trying to achieve.
And not only does it give you impetus to get it done, to know, it's getting close, like us. You know, we've got to figure this out because in 2 weeks this thing is supposed to go live. If you don't have a date, it'll just go on forever. And the goal of a goal is to reach it. I mean, this would be like, to use a football analogy, getting down at the 1 yard line and then they go, okay, boys, bring in the turf truck and we're going to add 10 more yards. And you keep doing that as you keep approaching the goal line. That's what happens when you don't put a date with your goal. That it just keeps going back and back and back.
And let's acknowledge the fact that even though some of us aren't specifically salespeople, we are in sales. Everyone is in sales all the time, and their number one product is themselves, as Jerry Frentress says. And one of the greatest ways to frustrate yourself or frustrate a salesperson is to not have a goal in front of them, because they don't know if they're successful then. They don't know if they've achieved what you expect of them. And how do you know whether or not you've achieved what you expect of yourself if you don't set goals or set benchmarks to reach? You can flounder for years and be completely dissatisfied. I lost a lot of good people over the years because I never set a goal or a vision for the company. I can't tell you how many times when somebody would come in and they would give their 2 weeks notice and I'm like, why are you leaving? Don't you enjoy the job? She goes, oh, I like the job. I just feel like I'm spinning my wheels here. Man, I hated hearing that. And I realized it was because they felt like the company was going nowhere. We were so involved in production in the day-to-day that we'd never said, what does the future look like? And never shared that story with somebody. So, if somebody's just coming to work from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or midnight to 3 a.m. or whatever the hours are, and they have no idea of what the direction's going to be, they get dissatisfied soon because they don't understand that their work matters towards something greater than just simply clocking in and clocking out.
And I'm going to point out Jim here in the front. I'm going to assume that when you decided Accelerated Business Exchange was going to come over to Shreveport, that was your goal. And then I'm going to assume that you set a time frame to achieve that goal, right? And then I'm going to bet you've narrowed it down even further and said we need this many people to get started. I went to Dave. I was with Specht newspapers from 2008 to about 2010. It was about a year and a half, and I left for various reasons. I came back in 2011, and it was like day 2 of me being back. And I walked in his office and said, I don't want to be editor all my life, so we need to figure something out. And then he met with me later and said, okay, so if we're going to make you a publisher of something, then here's your time frame. And then we had a goal, it had a date, and we worked towards it.
Yeah.
Even if you're an entrepreneur and it's a one-person show, I guarantee you have a best friend that you complain about work to, or a wife that you go home, or a husband that you go home to, and you talk about. It may be as simple as saying, honey, I really want to make $50,000 in my salary next year. And then you may have to say, can you hold me accountable? I need somebody to say, you're never, God, I'm tired, I don't want to go to work today. Well, you want to make $50,000, huh? Yeah, well then you need to get up and go. I have to do it with my wife, and she does it with me.
The majority of people, and this is a broad brush, but the majority of people do not have the self-discipline to accomplish personal goals by themselves. That's why there is a boom in business coaches right now. That's why there's a boom in personal trainers right now, because people need the accountability. And for a leader like myself, it's hard for a Sean to hold me accountable to business goals because he's like, I'm looking at my boss, and if my boss don't want to do it today, then we're not going to do it today. And so I have, people in my life that hold me accountable to what I said I was going to do or what I wanted to accomplish or the goals that I have set. You have to have that accountability. And it's never, I won't say never, that accountability partner needs to not only correct you when you're off track, but celebrate you when you are. I had another issue with subordinates at the company that said, the only time you talk to me is when I screw up. And I was like, wow. Because in my mind, and this is the way I was trained, and this is the way a lot of people who worked for baby boomers was trained, your paycheck is your accommodation. I don't have to tell you did a good job, I paid you a paycheck. That's not the case. And so when it's trying to reach a goal, if somebody hits a benchmark, it needs to be celebrated. It needs to be made a big deal out of, because if you don't, then they're not going to really put the effort forth through the next set to get to the next benchmark.
Following the diet metaphor, who here has done a diet, a strict, real diet, okay? So let's say you set your goals, right, and then you've stuck to it for 4 weeks and you've lost 10 pounds or whatever. What do?
Go eat.
The glorious words, cheat day, where anything goes. That's your reward. You celebrate the fact that you made progress by taking a small step back, and it's just how it works. Because I work out every day and I run all the time, and my diet is not where it needs to be. But when I do a diet to get down to a certain goal, I celebrate because I love food. And that's a reward to me. Some people, it may be money. Some people, it may just be making a big deal and calling them up in front of everybody and saying, hey, this person did an amazing job. Give them a round of applause. Everybody's different, but you have to celebrate your milestones. So now let's talk about, we've talked about all the great things, the ways to get to your goals, achieving your goals, but what happens if you fail?
F minus, is there such a thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah. Well, as Chris Hogan, part of the Dave Ramsey group, says, you either reach your goal or you don't. You fail. Yeah. You either achieve it or you fail. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. Sorry, this is not everybody gets a trophy. You either did it or you didn't. But if you fail, you need to review what happened to find out why you failed. Because it's all great to achieve your goal, and you need to review it if you achieve it, because you want to know how you achieved your success. You want to replicate it, especially if you're trying to scale, because then you have to apply that to other places. It's the same with failing. You want to know why you failed, what went wrong, where, so that you can stop it from happening.
And there's so many reasons why people don't reach what they need to reach. I mean, I remember back in the late 90s, we tried to form a company that built websites in Minden, Louisiana, of all places. And
what year was this? Like
95, 96.
Yeah, there you go. Not
and
last
so
year.
You talk about, we had talented people who knew HTML backwards and forwards. We had an awesome graphic designer. We had this ability. We had set all the things in place to be successful, except for one thing, market analysis. We sent our salespeople out there. We had this big hairy goal of we were going to have X number of websites, under our umbrella within a certain number of months. And you went out and you started talking to merchants. And they didn't even have email addresses. And they're like, well, why do I need a website? I don't even have an email address. I'm not doing it. And it was just objection after objection. This thing fell flat on its face. Why? Because it was too far ahead of the market curve. The market was not ready to embrace it. No matter how great of an idea it was, no matter how awesome, the plan is, people are making bazillions of dollars, on websites anymore. But it wasn't the right time for there. So we had to stop, review, back off, shut the company down and say, you know what, if it comes along, down the road, we might embrace it again. But it wasn't a failure from from the standpoint of, oh God, and everybody loses their job. It was more of we tried something, it didn't work, It's okay. Now let's review and go on.
And the important thing is to not get discouraged if you don't reach your goal. Don't give up, because success can grow out of failure. I mean, the people who are successful and are huge successes, they've had a million failures. You know, Michael Jordan says, you know, yeah, I made the game-winning shot, but you don't know, nobody remembers all the shots that I missed. It just takes practice and doing, and sometimes, like Dave said, there's outside forces. You can plan and account for everything, and sometimes it will still not go through.
My favorite story about failure is the story, and I'm sure y'all have heard of it, when Thomas Edison was trying to create a filament for the light bulb. He worked on a second-story office or room with an open window, and every time one failed, he threw the bulb out the window. By the time he succeeded and created the proper filament for a light bulb to work, the hill that he made reached the second floor window. And people asked him, you know, you failed 10,000 times. He goes, no. I figured out, I succeeded 10,000 times in knowing how to not make a light bulb. Failure is not the end. Failure is merely a learning opportunity for you to be successful down the road.
And it's achieved by staying focused and not quitting. You failed, okay, good. Take a day, lick your wounds. Then tomorrow, remember tomorrow is where all the wonderful things happen. Pick yourself up and get back on the horse and try it again. Another great thing is that when you fail, and this is where I come in, I do this at the company all the time. Not that we fail all the time, but in general, I like to give perspective. It's important to have that when you fail, because the journey may have been worth the process alone. Maybe you found something out about yourself. Maybe you found something out about your business. Maybe you know, there's a quote that I didn't know was a quote, or I didn't anyway, that if you aim for the moon and you land among the stars, what did you really lose? You're still ahead of where you were. And that's not a reason to get discouraged. Yeah, you didn't achieve your goal. But if your goal is to make $2 million and you made $1 million, and the year before you made $500,000, it's progress. Try again.
Let's get back to my example for the Bossier Chamber TRC, and I found this out yesterday, and those of you who are members of the Bossier Chamber will find this interesting. Even though right now they are short of the goal, they actually have all of their programs for next year funded. Think about that. So everything they do for the next 2 weeks will be not gravy, because there's a specific plan as to why they need the amount that they need, but now they will be able to do even greater things than they did last year. So even if they didn't get one more sponsor, one more sale, which they will, it's still a huge success. Why? Because they did accomplish something, and that was that they funded their programs for the next year. That's an amazing thing to have happen. And yet we can always focus on, well, we came up short. Yeah, but what did you achieve? What were some of the things that you achieved? If you come up just a little bit short of where you wanted to be, okay, let's figure out how to get there next time. But let's celebrate where we've gotten to. Because sometimes, I'll tell you, I look at profit and loss statements at the end of every month for 5 companies. And it's real easy to go, well, we didn't reach where we did last year or whatever. But when you start looking at, you dive in a little bit deeper into the numbers and see where the money came from, the revenues came from, or the expenses that you were able to hold tight and the things that were good, you realize there's a whole lot more to this than simply what's written on that bottom line. Let's go back to the weight loss thing. Since I've gotten over 40, and especially now since I've gotten over 45, there's all of these numbers that I have to deal with, cholesterol numbers and blood pressure numbers and all of these numbers, that by simply reducing my overall weight, those numbers come into line a whole lot easier. There's another number that I look at, number of pills I take. I want that number to come down as well. And so that is the overreaching, like you said, the overreaching benefits to reaching a weight goal. And so I have to look at all of that too, because there are days that I don't want to go get on a treadmill. I hate treadmills. Even though I listen to podcasts, I hate treadmills. But, and I've actually partnered with Sean. Sean drags my butt out to Anytime Fitness now in the middle of the day. So, but that's
Applaud
the
the
thing.
milestone. Applaud the milestone.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes. It takes the perspective to know what all of these things are. And guess what? If I don't drop 50, but I drop 30, guess what? All those ancillary benefits are still coming into play. And so just keep that in mind, because there are, like you said, there are positives to come out of even not reaching a goal. But understand, the goal is to reach the goal.
And when you fail, the most important thing is to just learn from your mistakes. It's like the quote that Dave had. Edison said, "I learned how to not make a light bulb 10,000 times." That's the most important part. It's when you fail and you just go, "Well, I failed," and you don't review it, and you don't learn from what went wrong, then you're going to fail again.
Yeah, and they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable to learn from your mistakes. But if you don't change as a result of your mistakes, then you are destined to repeat them. And when you don't reach a goal, you need to get that perspective, and you need to look at what mistakes were made. There are mistakes made. And sometimes we have the wrong thing. What we're doing is not working, or it's not working in this market, or whatever. Understand that, learn from it, and change. You may have to change product, you may have to change personnel, you may have to change approach, but you're going to have to change something, or you'll be destined to not reach your goal again.
And at the second to last page are some action steps in the booklet. And I encourage everybody to take 15 minutes today at some point during your day and do this. Figure out what you want to accomplish for 2015. One thing, just one. If you want to do 20, good for you, do 20. But at least do one. Make it specific, measurable, and time sensitive. Then you're going to write it down, and then you're going to try to figure out how to achieve it. Now that may take some time. That may be a Saturday or Sunday afternoon thing when you're bored around the house. Take that time, and then get your partner or your wife or your husband or your team at work to set a goal as well. And get them, and then, like Robin said, you got an accountability system. And if you have somebody that you're working with, get them to email you that goal. And then you're going to meet with them to talk about that goal. I did that last year, and you'd be surprised. I had two people that work under me directly, and I asked them to give me at least one goal. One never responded, and the other one gave me 3, and came in my office and sat down immediately and wanted to talk about them. And he was the one that I thought was going to ignore it, or say I don't have time, or I'm well, we'll just keep doing what we're always doing. No, that's not what I'm saying. So you'd be surprised at the goals you're going to get from people and the response you get. And then you need to set up a regular review process for yourself. Remember, this is the accountability part and measurable part. Set up a way to review. Even if it's just at the end of every week, you take 5 minutes on a Friday afternoon and just go, I didn't stick to the plan here and here. No wonder it failed. Or I'm not on track. How do I get back on track? And it may be as simple as motivation, thinking about the other ways that it can impact you. It may be an actual change that you have to make. But if you don't make it, you're going to fail. And then finally, stick to it. Things are going to get hard. You're going to enter the dip. Things are going to get hard, and it's not going to be fun. But the reward is worth it. It's so much better than the dip you're in. And it's easy to say. It's easy for me to hear and say that. But I guarantee you, most of us are either in a dip right now, or we've encountered a dip very recently. And we either plow through it or we quit. So remember that. Use it for fuel the next time you get stuck when things are hard and aren't going your way.
That's really the long and short of it. That goals are great, but if you don't achieve them, what's the point? If you don't achieve them, what's the point? So, yeah, it's going to get hard. Muscles are going to hurt. Feelings are going to get hurt. Accountability never is comfortable. You may have to jettison a project that was your baby for a long time simply because it is hindering you from reaching your goal. I was there. I've had several projects that were my baby, and they just were hindering the efforts of everybody else because it was yet another thing that they had to sell, or they had to provide content for, or something, and it just was keeping you from doing a great job on your primary product. And I had to jettison it because it just simply wasn't worth all the effort, and it was keeping us in a dip longer than we should have been. It's not easy. These are simple precepts. I would suspect that most of y'all have heard at least part of what we've shared today somewhere else. But that's the thing. There are no new ideas in the world. But at the same time, so few people have the discipline and all to see these things through. The people that see these things through are the ones that you see that are having exponential success. Why is that? Because they know and they're focused and they're charging hard, and they're not going to let anything get in their way. Even if they get off track at times. Look at Apple. You know, Steve Jobs got fired because Apple was struggling. He had a vision of what he wanted the company to be, and the board didn't share his vision. A lot of the people at Apple, some did share, some didn't share. He got fired. I mean, that's what, if anybody had a reason to quit, Steve Jobs had a reason to quit once the board fired him at Apple as CEO. But then a very short time later, I think maybe 2 years, they came back and they said, Steve, you got the reins. And now we're all clamoring for iPhone 6s and everything else. Why? Because he knew what he was focused in. He had perspective. One thing that you may not know about Steve Jobs is that when he left Apple, he went to a little company that did animated films. That company's name is Pixar. And they were working on a film about toys. And he got involved with it. Nobody knows about Steve Jobs behind Toy Story. They all know about Steve Jobs behind Apple. He had perspective, and he's like, you know what? I can do this in a different way. And he got involved with another company. Don't let the things that could potentially derail you keep you from your goal. Stay focused, get perspective when you miss it, learn from your mistakes, and keep trudging forward. I guarantee you over the long haul you'll see more success.